So I want to start today with a scenario that I think is going to painfully resonate with you.
Oh boy, lay it on me.
Imagine you've just bought a really complex piece of furniture, like maybe a high-end blender or one of those.
What are those flat pack nightmares from IKEA?
Yes, exactly. You open the box, you see a million parts, a bag of identical screws. What is the absolute first thing you look for?
The instructions. Well, actually, I look for them after I've tried to build it myself for 20 minutes and put a dowel through the wrong panel.
Right, you look for the manual. Because we get a manual for our toasters, our cars, our phones. But think about when you were born. Did you come with a user manual?
I definitely did not. And judging by my teenage years, my parents were desperately looking for one.
We don't get instructions for ourselves. And we certainly don't get them for the people we date or the people we work with. So have you ever had one of those arguments where you're talking to someone and it literally feels like you are speaking completely different languages?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you're saying, I care about you, but they're somehow hearing, I'm trying to control you.
Yeah, that is a wildly universal human experience. And usually it's because we just assume everyone's operating system works the exact same way ours does. We think, well, I would react this way, so they obviously should too.
But today, we are going to look at something that claims to be that missing user manual. We are doing a deep dive into an introduction to the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
This is written by Mark McGuinness, and it's based on a series by Liz Strauss. Now, I know what some of you listening might be thinking. The Enneagram, isn't that just another internet personality quiz? Like, which Harry Potter house am I?
Right, and that is exactly where we need to stop and reframe this.
Mm-hmm.
What's so fascinating about McGuinness's take here and the source material he's drawing from is that this is not a party trick.
No.
He frames the Enneagram not as a way to, flatter yourself or slap a cute label on your forehead. It's a tool for uncovering your psychological blind spots.
And that is our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We aren't just categorizing people. We're looking for the box you are already trapped in so you can finally climb out of it.
Precisely. It's all about psychological friction. If you don't know the shape of your own personality, you're just going to keep bumping into the same walls over and over again.
Yes, let's visualize this thing. The text describes the symbol as a circle with the 9-pointed star inside, which looks a bit...
mystical.
Yeah. Maybe even a little esoteric.
It does have ancient roots. The system draws from Sufi mystics, early Christian origins, even some Buddhist connections. But for our purposes today, and consistent with McGuinness's analysis, we are just stripping away the mysticism.
We're keeping it practical.
Exactly. We're looking at this strictly as a psychological framework. Just think of it as a map of human nature.
Okay, let's unpack this map.
Yeah.
There are 9 types, hence the Enneagram name. But before we get to the specific numbers, and I know everyone listening wants to find their number, the system groups them into 3 broad categories first.
The 3 centers of intelligence.
Right. And this seems like a crucial foundational step that people just skip right over.
It is the foundation. It's basically the operating system for the types. The system posits that humans process the world through 3 distinct modes of intelligence: emotional, mental, and instinctive.
Or, to put it simply, relating, thinking, and doing.
Right.
But, don't we all do all 3? Like, I think, I feel, and I act.
We do. We all use all 3. But the theory is that we have a home base. One of these centers is where we retreat to when we're stressed, and it's the primary filter we use to make sense of reality. It's kind of like the lens you can't take off.
Okay, so break those down for us.
First, you have the heart types. That's types 2, 3, and 4. They rely on emotional intelligence, so they process the world through feelings and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the head types 5, 6, and 7. They filter the world through mental analysis and often fear. And finally, the body types 8, 9, and 1. They operate on instinct, gut feeling, and a sense of physical presence in the world.
And I think there's a really important disclaimer the author makes right at the start here, which I really appreciate.
Yes. No type is better than another.
Right.
This isn't some hierarchy where the ultimate goal is to become a type 1 or a type 9. We all have the potential to use all these intelligences, but we get stuck in one dominant pattern. And that pattern is your type.
And usually it's a pattern we developed as kids, right? Like
Yeah.
just to survive or get our needs met.
Exactly. It's a childhood survival strategy that we just kept using into adulthood.
Okay, let's get into the weeds. I want to walk through these 9 types, but let's try to go beyond the surface stereotypes. Let's start with the heart center, the relators.
Let's do it.
Type 2, the helper.
So the helper is exactly what it sounds like. They derive their self-worth from meeting other people's needs. They are the ones who somehow sense what you need before you even ask for it.
They're the first to bring a casserole when you're sick.
Exactly. The text mentions the stereotype is like a kindly grandmother, or the power behind the throne. At their best, 2s are genuinely altruistic. They find true joy in service without needing a receipt for it. They're warm, generous, truly caring.
But here comes the blind spot.
Right, this is a deep dive. We have to look at the shadow. The blind spot for the 2 is the martyr. When a 2 is operating from their false personality rather than their true essence, that giving stops being a gift and starts being a transaction.
It becomes manipulation.
Exactly. The subconscious thought is, I did this for you, so you owe me love. They can't acknowledge their own needs. They feel like they aren't allowed to have any. So they manipulate you into meeting them by making you feel guilty.
Oof. That I suffered for you and you didn't even say thank you guilt trip.
Yeah, it's love with strings attached. I'll scratch your back, but if you don't scratch mine, I will make sure you feel terrible about it.
Right, let's look at type 3, the performer.
3s are the achievers of the emotional world. Now, that might sound contradictory because achieving feels like a doing thing. But for a 3, achievement is entirely about how others feel about them.
Oh, I see.
They read the room to influence people. They gain their self-worth from praise and recognition.
So we're talking actors, politicians.
Often, yes. But also the high-flying corporate manager or the top salesperson. And at their best, they are the embodiment of excellence. Like, they actually are that good. They're efficient, charming, motivating. But the shadow side is spin.
Like fake it till you make it.
More like believing their own press. They can become so attached to the public persona, the shiny image, that they actually lose touch with who they really are inside.
Wow.
They deceive themselves. The text calls the dark side of the performer the plausible liar. They will cut corners on the truth just to keep the image intact. They're chameleons who literally forget what color they actually are.
Man. Okay, that brings us to type 4, the romantic. Now, this isn't necessarily romantic like Valentine's Day, hearts and flowers.
No, it's romantic in the literary sense. Think the romantic poets. Deep introspection, high drama, a massive quest for authenticity. The 4's core identity is being true to themselves and, crucially, being unique.
So the stereotype here is the tortured artist.
The artist, or the black sheep of the family. The person who dyes their hair purple, not just because they like the color, but because they desperately need to signal that they are not like everyone else.
Right.
At their best, they create immense meaning and beauty. They can sit with pain in a way other types just can't handle. But at their worst,
The text mentions they can totally reject reality.
because reality is just too ordinary for them, they can spiral into depression because the real world feels flat compared to their rich inner world. They kind of wallow in the tragedy of being misunderstood.
Like they almost enjoy the melancholy because it makes them feel deep.
Exactly. If they're too happy, they actually worry they're losing their edge.
Okay, so that's the heart center. High highs and low lows. Let's shift gears to the head types, the thinkers. We start with type 5, the observer.
So if the 2 wants to help you and the 3 wants to impress you, the 5 wants to understand you, but from a very safe distance.
The ivory tower intellectual.
Often, yes. 5s value knowledge above all else. They have amazing focus. They can analyze complex data and find patterns no one else sees. They are the true objective experts. But their blind spot is hoarding.
Hoarding, like newspapers and dozens of cats.
No, hoarding resources and information. 5s often have a scarcity mindset. They feel like they only have a limited amount of energy, and social interaction just drains it. So they hoard their time and their privacy. The text calls the worst version the paranoid pedant. They withdraw into a world of abstract thought and never actually do anything with the knowledge. They basically replace living with thinking.
That sounds incredibly lonely.
It is. They build walls of books and facts to keep people out. They observe life rather than actually participating in it.
What about type 6, the guardian? This one seems a bit more anxious.
Very much so. The 6 is driven by loyalty and security. They're the ones constantly scanning the horizon for threats. In a corporate setting, they're the ones asking, well, what if the budget gets cut? Or what if the client hates this?
The text compares them to a security guard or a super loyal team member.
Right. They are incredibly dependable. They're the glue in a community. But because their focus is entirely on danger, their dark side is paranoia.
An us versus them mentality.
Precisely. If they feel threatened, they circle the wagons. Everyone outside the group suddenly becomes a potential enemy. It's fear masquerading as loyalty. They can become blindly obedient to authority, Or conversely, blindly rebellious against it if they decide they don't trust the leader. They just live in a constant state of worst-case scenario.
Okay, then we have type 7, the optimist. Now, on the surface, this sounds like the fun one. Like, if I had to pick, I'd want to be a 7.
And that is a very 7 thing to say. 7s are the life of the party. They see options everywhere. The glass is half full, and if it isn't, they'll just go order a new drink. They're visionary, spontaneous, enthusiastic.
So where's the catch? Why is being happy considered a blind spot?
You have to ask why they are so busy being happy. The 7 uses optimism as a defense mechanism. They are absolutely terrified of pain, boredom, or limitation.
So they keep moving just to avoid facing the hard stuff.
Exactly. They reframe everything into a positive, which sounds good on paper, but it means they never actually process grief or failure. The text calls the dark side the selfish hedonist.
Yikes.
They become addicted to pleasure and novelty to avoid responsibility. They'll start 1,000 projects and finish absolutely none of them. They're basically running a marathon to nowhere just to keep the wind in their hair.
All right, so that's the head types. Now we move to the gut, the body types. These are the people who operate on pure instinct. Let's look at type 8, the leader.
8s are pure energy. Decisive, vigorous, protective, they occupy space. When an 8 walks into a room, you know it immediately. The stereotype is the military general or the CEO who flips tables.
I feel like we all know an 8. They're the ones who take charge when everyone else is just dithering.
They do, and at their best, they are heroic. They will literally put themselves in the line of fire to protect the weak. They seek justice and truth. They're the snowplows that clear the road for everyone else. But
when power becomes the goal,
then they become the intimidating bully. They take pleasure in making others squirm. They mistake their own aggression for honesty. They'll think, I'm just telling it like it is, while they are actually crushing someone's soul.
Wow.
It's power just for power's sake. They are terrified of being controlled, so they control everyone else first.
That's intense. Now, type 9 seems like the exact opposite of that. The peacemaker.
9s are the mediators. They want harmony and balance above everything. They're easygoing, accepting. They're the nice people. They're the ones saying, hey, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
But I'm guessing there's a heavy cost to having peace at any cost.
Absolutely. The dark side of the 9 is the anxious placater, or the sloth. Now, sloth here doesn't necessarily mean physically lazy. They can be very busy, but it means spiritual laziness. They go to sleep on themselves.
Like they just zone out.
They merge with others to avoid having to assert their own opinions. They avoid conflict so much that they'll let huge problems fester until they eventually explode. A 9 might be smiling on the outside, totally agreeing with you, but inside they are completely checked out or stubbornly resisting. It's passive ambition as an art form.
And finally, type 1. The achiever, or sometimes they're called the reformer.
1s are completely driven by a sense of mission. They have incredibly high standards. They want to improve the world and themselves. They have this constant voice in their head that is critiquing everything they do.
A perfectionist?
Yes. At their best, they create order out of chaos. They are ethical, highly reliable, and they champion excellence. But at their worst, they become the merciless critic.
Where nothing is ever good enough.
Nothing. Not their work, not their partner, and certainly not themselves. They make everyone around them miserable with their rules and judgment. They are so convinced that their way is the only right way that they become rigid and totally intolerant.
So we have these 9 types. And usually when you take a quiz online, that's where the whole thing ends. Congratulations, you're a 4, here's a badge. But the source material goes much deeper than that. It talks about how this system actually works dynamically.
And this is where we leave the whole party trick behind and get into the real psychology. The author references G.I. Gurdjieff, who originally brought the Enneagram symbol to the West. And he taught that your personality is actually a false self.
Wait, hold on. My personality is false.
In this specific context, yes. It's a defense mechanism. It's a suit of armor you put on to survive your childhood. The goal of the Enneagram isn't to polish that armor. It's to take it off so your true essence can emerge.
I see.
Your type reveals the value you are so obsessed with that you end up neglecting everything else.
And the diagram shows this movement, right, with the arrows, the lines connecting the numbers inside the circle.
Correct. If you look at the diagram, there are lines connecting the numbers. These represent how you move under different conditions. You have a stress direction, which is where you go when you're crashing, and a growth direction, which is where you go to integrate and heal.
Can you walk us through the example the author gives? He talks about his own type, and I found it really illuminating.
Yeah, Mark McGuinness identifies as a type 1, that serious, hardworking achiever and perfectionist. Now, follow the line on the chart. When a 1 is stressed, the arrow points directly to type 4.
The romantic, the moody one.
Right. So when McGuinness gets overwhelmed, he doesn't just work harder. He collapses into moodiness. He starts feeling like nobody understands how hard he works. He becomes a martyr, lamenting the state of the world.
Yeah.
He takes on all the negative traits of the 4. That's the path of disintegration.
Okay, so how does he grow? How does he get out of that box?
He has to go against the arrow. For a 1, the growth path leads to type 7, the optimist.
The party animal.
Exactly. And this is the critical insight. For a serious, highly responsible type 1, acting like a 7 feels inherently wrong. It feels irresponsible. It feels scary.
Right. He writes that he had to intentionally learn to stop meditating and working so hard and instead go to parties, watch football, and just be silly.
Which sounds easy to us, but for him, that was profound, difficult work. That's the key takeaway here. Growth often feels like you are going against your grain.
Wow.
If you're a helper, a type 2, growth means setting boundaries and actually being a bit selfish. If you're a peacemaker, a type 9, growth means actively picking a fight and asserting yourself.
It feels wrong, which is why it's exactly what you need to do. That's powerful. It explains why we so often resist the things that would actually help us the most.
We trust our armor because it kept us safe for so long. Taking it off just feels dangerous.
I want to pivot a bit to how we use this with other people. Because the natural instinct is to treat people how we want to be treated. The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The Enneagram actually suggests that the golden rule is terrible advice if you take it completely literally.
Okay, explain that.
Well, if you are a type 2 who craves affection, and you try to smother a type 5 who desperately craves privacy with all this affection, you aren't being nice, you're being a nuisance. You need to treat them according to their values, not yours.
The text has a great workplace scenario about this. Imagine a manager who is a type 2 a helper, and they are trying to motivate a type 8 employee, the leader.
Right. So the helper manager walks in and says, hey, if you could do this project, the whole team would really appreciate it, and it would be so incredibly helpful to me personally.
Which sounds super nice. I'd respond to that.
To a 2, it sounds nice. To an 8, it sounds weak. The 8 did not care about appreciation or being helpful. The 8 cares about power, impact, and justice. So the 8 hears that request and thinks, why are you begging me?
So what should the manager say instead? They should speak the 8's language. They should say, look, I'm giving you this because it's a really tough assignment. It's going to be a fight. It's high stakes. And I need someone with the guts to handle it and ensure justice is done.
That is a totally different energy.
It is. And the 8 will light up. They'll be like, a fight. I'm in.
What about the other example? The type 4 employee.
So if you tell a 4 to do something because it's standard procedure or it's what everyone else is doing, they will literally lose the will to live. You have to appeal to their core need for authenticity. You say, I need you on this because it requires a completely unique perspective. I need your original take on this because the standard way just isn't working.
You're validating their core identity.
Exactly. And it applies to personal relationships, too. The text mentions a romance between a 3, the performer, and a 5, the observer. This is your classic opposites attract scenario that so often turns into a total disaster.
Break that down for us.
The 3 wants the 5 to get out there, win awards, be recognized. They say, why are you hiding your light? Let's go to the gala. They honestly think they're encouraging the 5.
And the 5 just wants to stay home and read a book.
Right. And the 5 thinks the 3 is just shallow and obsessed with their image. Why do you care what these random people think?
So how do they fix it? Does the 3 stop trying to achieve? Does the 5 become a socialite?
No, because that's trying to change the other person. The only solution is respect. The 3 needs to respect the 5's need for privacy and recharge time without taking it personally as a rejection. And the 5 needs to celebrate the 3's public success without secretly judging it as fake.
It's all about translation. It's about realizing that different doesn't mean broken.
Yeah, it's about realizing that the very things that annoy you about your partner are often just the flip side of the things you fell in love with in the first place. You fell in love with the 3's charm, but now you're annoyed by their need for attention. You fell in love with the 5's deep intelligence, but now you're annoyed by their detachment. It's the exact same trait.
This has been such a fascinating look at this system. I mean, it really does make you rethink basically every interaction you've had this week.
It really does. And I think the most important takeaway, if you listening remember absolutely nothing else, comes right from the end of the text. The author quotes Richard Rohr, a famous theologian and Enneagram teacher. He says, you haven't really got the Enneagram until you've been humiliated by it.
Humiliated. That's a pretty strong word for a self-help tool.
It's the only honest word for it. Because when you really see your type, when you finally catch yourself in the act, it is not a proud moment. You realize that all those things you thought were your highly unique personality traits, your noble suffering, your high standards, your generosity, are actually just a predictable, completely mechanical pattern.
You realize you're a cliché.
Yeah. You are a machine reacting to a script you literally wrote when you were 5 years old. That is incredibly humbling.
But that humiliation is sort of the door to freedom, isn't it?
Exactly. Because as long as you think your armor is you, you can't take it off. The Enneagram isn't about putting you in a box. You are already in a box. The Enneagram just shows you the exact dimensions of the box so you can finally climb out of it.
So here is our challenge to you, the listener. Don't just go take a quiz and post the result on your social media. Over the next few days, really watch yourself. Catch yourself on autopilot. When do you suddenly get defensive? When do you desperately crave praise? When do you want to hide?
That's your type talking. And once you can actually hear it, you can finally choose to talk back.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This was amazing.
Always a pleasure.